On October 7th, 2023, early in the morning, Hamas, the barbaric Palestinian terrorist organization, attacked Israel, firing thousands of rockets all over the country and conducting a massive ground attack on communities and army positions in southwestern Israel. During this attack, unimaginable atrocities were committed, including the killing of about 1,400 people, wounding thousands others, and kidnapping about 240 people into Gaza. Hamas killed and tortured infants, children, elderly, sick, men and women, raped and killed young girls and women, cut open the belly of a pregnant woman and then killed her and her fetus and her other kids, burned entire families alive, tortured and then killed families, and many more horrible and unspeakably brutal acts of terrorism. They did this to Israeli Jews and Arabs and foreign nationals without any compunction. A couple of weeks ago, I visited 3 different locations at which these massacres and barbarism occurred. The musical festival near Kibbutz Re'im and private homes at Kibbutz Kfar Aza and Kibbutz Be'eri. At the site of the music festival, I saw the large open area where hundreds of people, young adults, families with young children, and music and peace lovers of all ages, backgrounds, and origins fled in terror from the Hamas terrorists who were shooting at them. All around, I saw their shoes and bags, their underwear and cosmetics, the baby toys and safety seats, which they dropped as they ran in terror. The terrorists who surrounded them on all sides, hunted them down, shooting hundreds, raping and then killing girls and women, and took scores as prisoners back to Gaza. Some of the festival participants tried to hide in refrigerators that were in the bars and the food stands at the festival, and the terrorists systematically went and opened each one and shot those hiding in terror in them. From there, I went to Kibbutz Kfar Aza, situated right on the border with the Gaza Strip. Hundreds of terrorists stormed the kibbutz, and for hours, only the local civilian response team fought back, most of whom did not survive. Here, even though the bodies of the murdered Israelis had already been removed, tangible evidence of the horrible terror could be seen. Right next to where the Hamas terrorists burst into the kibbutz, there was a small neighborhood comprised of a small road with houses and apartments on both sides, about 20 in all. This was the neighborhood where the young adults of the kibbutz lived. The murderous terrorists went from house to house, apartment by apartment, and murdered their occupants. I saw blood and brains splattered on floors, walls, and windows. I saw a couch with a big blood stain on its back and a bullet hole showing how the person sitting on the couch hadn't been shot. And right above the couch, at the level of that person's head, a bullet hole in the wall and blood and brains splattered on the wall. And these were the scenes in room after room. People caught in their homes, hiding in terror, in total terror in safe rooms, and murderous terrorists bursting in and killing them without mercy or any moral compunction. The smell of death was everywhere, a strong and overpowering combination of drying blood, smoke, gunpowder, and burnt wood. Standing in this carnage and in these ruins, I could not but think that this was the valley of the shadow of death from Psalm 23. Here was what this passage means, not in a theoretical way, and not even through seeing it at other sites of massacres of relatively recent times, such as the Holocaust or the Cambodian killing fields. Here I saw the actual remains of the murdered people, evidence of their lives before they were slaughtered, and the sights and smells of their horrible death. From there, I went to Kibbutz Be'eri, another one of the sites of the indescribable carnage and murderous mayhem. Here, I saw family houses that had been burned down with their occupants. In some of the cases, the destruction was so massive that the occupants' remains were reduced to ashes only and could not be identified. So, to assist in identifying the remains of all the murdered people, colleagues of mine from the Israel Antiquities Authority stepped in, using archaeological techniques to find remains of those murdered. I saw my brave colleagues conducting this indescribably hard and gut-wrenching work, at times even under enemy fire. Their work enabled to identify the remains of several of the people who had been killed in these houses. This was important to the families of the murdered people, as they at least could know what happened to their loved ones. I myself, as an archaeologist with decades of experience, I've often excavated remains of ancient peoples who suffered death and destruction. Here, though, this was carried out on people murdered a few weeks ago. Sifting through the remains in these houses, the archaeologists managed to find bones and teeth of some of the deceased, which enabled identification and some sort of a burial. So a new type of archaeology has been born, the archaeology of terrorism. This is horrible. Perhaps the hardest and most disturbing scene that I saw, amongst all the horrible sights of blood, brain, carnage, and destruction, was in a house at Kibbutz B. Approaching the house, a very strong stench of death was hanging in the air. On the porch, in front of the main door, there was a large pool of congealed blood, and in the pool I saw a meat cleaver, 2 knives, and a hammer, the weapons used to kill the person whose blood was on the floor. I entered the home, and right behind the main door and next to the dining room table, there was another large pool of blood, and in it a large knife. Once again, the murder weapon that was used on this victim. Moving further into the house, into the safe room, there were large blood stains on the mattress of the bed in the room and splattered blood all around. Here was horrifying, indescribable evidence of the murder of an entire family. As I stood outside this house afterwards, trying to gather my breath and working hard not to break down, I thought of Chaim Nachman's Bialik poem, The City of Slaughter, written after the Kishinev pogrom of 1903, a text which became iconic in Zionism. Here is an excerpt of the English translation of this poem. Get up and walk through the city of massacre, and with your hand, touch and lock your eyes on the cooled brain and clots of blood, dried on tree trunks, rocks, and fences. It is they. Go to the ruins, to the gaping breaches, to walls and hearths shattered as though by thunder, concealing the blackness of a naked brick. A crowbar has embedded itself deeply, like a crushing crowbar, and those holes are like black wounds, for which there is no healing or doctor. Take a step, and your footstep will sink. You have placed your foot in fluff, into the fragments of utensils, into rags, into shreds of books. Bit by bit, they were amassed through arduous labor, and in the flash, everything was destroyed. While less than 50 Jews were murdered in that pogrom, the pogrom and the poem written by Bialik had a profound effect on the modern history of the Jewish people. On October 7th, the death toll was about 30 times worse. Clearly, this horrible event will be a watershed moment in Jewish history and perhaps world history. Time will tell. I was fortunate. I was not at these sites during these horrible terror attacks. I woke up on Saturday, October 7th, like any normal day, and only realized something was amiss when the air raid sirens went off due to rockets being fired from Gaza. I was not present when these heinous terrorists attacked peaceful civilian communities, killing, raping, torturing, and abducting hundreds upon hundreds of infants, children, men, women, elderly, and sick. However, visiting these locations at which such murderous, barbaric attacks occurred, seeing the horrific evidence of these murderous rampages, I will never be the same. May the victims of this barbaric massacre rest in peace. May the wounded heal, both physically and mentally, and may the kidnapped return without any delay. And may the terrorists, their facilitators and supporters be punished by death. So, as an archaeologist, what do I take from what I saw? I think two things. One, I'm in total awe of my colleagues from the Israel Antiquities Authority who created a new discipline in archaeology, the Archaeology of Terrorism, using archaeological tools to enable the identification of those who were murdered, even when their remains were barely discernible. And two, having seen the horrible, gut-wrenching evidence of these massacres, I have a whole new perspective on death and destruction in antiquity. Even though there are vivid descriptions in ancient texts of such events, and even though I myself have excavated and touched such remains, what I saw has turned this into a personal and emotional experience. I now know what such horrors are in an explicit and very, very vivid manner. Thank you very much.